here is the $64,000 question. Can you ever be friends with an ex?
No. Can you?
Yes.
Well done.
The eternal question. See, I think the thing is, it doesn't really matter what I want to do. It's like, who would want to fall out with me?
No, it's true.
No, but
you are
in
an
all
awful
humility.
enemy. No, I mean, I could think of no one I'd rather fall out with less than you.
See? There you are. So this question was reignited this week when Jennifer Aniston was seen dining with her ex-husband, Justin Theroux, who sounds like a French-Canadian
He's
Prime Minister. Is he?
Yes,
what does he do?
An actor.
Is
Just
he?
like her, yeah.
And his name's Justin Theroux?
Yeah.
Is he related to Louis Theroux?
They're cousins, and they're tall, dark and handsome, and I don't think Louis Theroux is very handsome. Anyway, I digress. Look, they are not the only ones. Of course, Queen Consort Camilla's ex-husband, controversially, Andrew Parker-Bowles, will be at the coronation.
Well, apparently they are like that. They are close like that.
Which is lovely, because they have children and grandchildren.
Well, you say it's lovely, but you don't
easy.
advocate it. You don't think you can be friends with your ex.
Well, just personally. I mean, it's admirable.
Because you're just bitter and twisted.
Probably.
That's what it is.
Well, let's speak to somebody else who's a little bit bitter and twisted, dating coach Alex Douglas. He says it is too difficult to keep in touch with a former flame, and someone will always get hurt if you do. Fair point.
Meanwhile, children's writing coach and mentor Clare Ford, who you see there, says her divorced parents remain good friends to this very day. And both the guys joined us now. And Claire, I would like to first of all hear the example of why it worked, why the friendship was important. I suppose maybe because children were involved with your parents.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I grew up in the 70s thinking that ex-partners could be friends because my mum and dad stayed friends. My stepdad was very good friends with my dad. And in fact, my dad married several times. And each time my mum welcomed the new wife,
I like the sound of your dad. I like the sound. It's not that he remarried. My dad married several times. That's really... That's good.
How did you welcome a new wife?
But for me, it just became a norm that we would have these big family parties. And I suppose blended families wasn't a thing. You know, that phrase hadn't been coined then, but actually that's what it was. You know, I've got a half sister. We had step parents, people with different cultures, backgrounds, in a big melded family. And I actually just thought that that's the way things were growing up in that environment, you know.
Well, look, I'm all for peace, love and forgiveness and everything, but I'm afraid I'm with Alex and all of this. It's just not, I can't ever see myself welcoming my husband if he got a new wife. I just know I couldn't do that. Alex, what about you?
Well, yeah, I'm strongly against. Somebody always gets hurt, whether it be yourself from splitting up with somebody, your partner or their current partner. It just goes on. And the bottom line is, if you've got good friends and you've got your partner, surely better to invest the time in one of them rather than some kind of estranged ex.
Well, we're not saying that that's not happening, but I think what Claire's trying to show is that her dad had children with her mum, and that little family unit they kept alive, and civility reigned in that. You could also say, Claire, that they never loved each other enough for it to matter, for it to make a difference. Yes. You see, that there wasn't enough passion, and therefore what Isabel's talking about is maybe that you fall out with someone because it hurts too much.
Yes.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but actually my mum ended up marrying the best man. And my grandmother told me that, of course, my dad was very, very upset that my mum ended up with his best friend.
What?
But he did say that if I were to be brought up by any other person in the world, he would prefer it to be his best friend. Right? A person who has the same values, who he can trust in the sense that, yes, obviously the relationship to one side, but actually from the point of view of having my best interests at heart as a child, he would rather it be somebody that he knew. Yeah, and so, yes, it was hurtful at the time. Of course it was hurtful at the time.
Right.
But I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's the way that
let's hear from Alex as to what he says and why you should keep your distance.
Yeah, I mean, there are exceptional circumstances, I'd say. But in terms of in these times, it's just, we're so busy, we want to be so focused with our lives. And to actually have someone who's kind of this grey area in the background and affecting relationships, you feel like the need to be diplomatic and keep in touch might make them feel better, might make you feel better. But at the end of the day, it's about having the time, spending quality time with people that you actually invest your time in for purposes of life, work, or obviously passion and love. And obviously, it can be very complex. And it's just, quite frankly, it's better just put it to one side, face the closure, because at some point, someone's going to get hurt. That's how I see it.
I've got an email in, Claire, here from somebody who's been listening this morning. Simon says, my wife cheated on me and we split up. That was 12 years ago and I still hate her. I'm remarried now and I am happy, but I cannot even talk to her. And what would you say to somebody like Simon listening to this? Can he live, does he have to live with that hatred, do you think, for the rest of his life? And is that bad for him in your view?
For me, I think it's important to not necessarily forget, but I think forgiveness is key. You know, why should he be giving his power away to something his ex-wife did 12 years ago and letting that eat away at him when he could actually use this as a stepping stone to step into a different version of himself, to learn to forgive her and to move on without that eating away at him. That's what I personally think. That's what I had to do with my ex. You don't want that eating away at you, that hatred for 12 years. That's not healthy.
OK, Alex?
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, it's, like I said, there are exceptional circumstances, like, for example, your location. Maybe you're the only person in the village apart from your ex, for example. But in terms of keeping up the dynamism of a new relationship, a healthy relationship, and to be able to focus on someone and someone that you're close to in life, that's the absolute key here. So I just think that generally going forward, you've got to look back and just say, well, those are the days that I great memories. Keep the photos, maybe, but that's my bottom line.
Photos? Oh, no.
I suppose the danger is people are assuming and thinking that if you stay in contact with an ex, there still would be
the door is ajar. That's the phrase my husband used to me, that an ex.
That's if you're thinking about it sexually.
He said, don't even keep the number in your phone, you're keeping the door ajar. That was his words. I'll never forget that.
Right.
Good words.
But if you don't see, time moves on and people see people differently as time moves on, and they mightn't look upon them the same way.
Times change, but the bottom line is that people move on, and it's just about, again, I've said it many times, it's about the time that you have in your life, giving people that closure, finding their own connection, and letting it go.
So I think we've got a score draw on this. Claire saying you can remain friends with an ex. Alex saying no, stay away, don't be bothering. Isabel, you're agreeing with that?
Look, for the sake of the kids, I'm all for tolerance and forgiveness. I just don't know if I could do it.
I think, especially where children are involved, I think if children aren't involved, it's less important.
Yeah.
But I think you should stay civilised anyway. And there we are. So that's a 2-2 score draw at the end of all that.
Let us know your thoughts at home. I'm sure there's lots going to be flying in after all of this.
Claire, Alex, thank you both very much indeed.